You're all welcome to today's news analysis. This is not noise. This is not rumor. This one is real politics. If you care about 2027, if you care about ADC, if you care about who fights Tinubu, then you need to watch this till the end. Rotimi Amaechi has fired back. Nasir El-Rufai has drawn a line. And now, the ADC is facing another big test. Before we go deep, subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss serious political breakdowns like this. Now let's get into it. Nasir El-Rufai spoke clearly. No fear. No delay. He said, there will be no zoning in the ADC presidential primary. Everybody will contest. Whoever wins will get full support. On the surface, the statement sounded calm and democratic. An open contest. Equal opportunity. A message that suggests fairness and unity. But in Nigerian politics, words are never just words. Every statement carries weight. Every sentence has timing. And every timing has meaning. Zoning is not a new idea in Nigeria. It is a political understanding that has guided power rotation for years. Major parties use it to manage tension. They use it to reduce conflict. They use it to keep the system stable. So when El-Rufai said there would be no zoning in ADC, many people did not hear freedom. They heard a shift. They heard a break from tradition. They heard a possible reset of the rules. This was not a small comment made in passing. It was a clear position. And it came at a very sensitive time. The 2027 election cycle is already taking shape. All major political actors are watching each other closely. Coalitions are being tested. Trust is still fragile. ADC is trying to present itself as a serious alternative. A party with structure. A party with direction. A party that can unite different regions and interests. That is why El-Rufai's statement landed hard. In Nigeria, zoning is deeply linked to regional balance. After 8 years of a northern president, many Nigerians expect power to stay in the south. This expectation is not written into law, but it is written into political reality. Ignoring that reality comes with consequences. Supporters of zoning argue that it gives every region a sense of belonging. They believe it prevents domination. They believe it reduces suspicion. They believe it keeps the country together. Opponents argue that zoning limits choice. They say competence should come first. They say the best candidate should win, regardless of region. El-Rufai's position clearly fell into the second camp. No zoning. Open contest. Winner takes all support. But the problem was not just the idea. It was the timing. And it was the platform. ADC is not yet a fully settled house. It is still forming its identity. Its internal agreements are still being debated. Its coalition partners are still watching each other. In such a moment, any strong declaration can create tension. Almost immediately, political observers began to react. Some praised El-Rufai for pushing merit. Others warned that the statement could divide the party before it fully forms. Questions started coming up. Was ADC ready for a free-for-all contest? Could the party survive multiple powerful interests clashing at once? Would zoning be ignored completely, or was this a test reaction? These questions did not stay online for long. They moved into real political conversations. Meetings. Phone calls. Private warnings. For many Southern stakeholders, the statement felt unsettling. Not because they feared competition, but because they feared disorder. In Nigerian politics, disorder at the start usually leads to collapse at the end. ADC had been presenting itself as disciplined, as focused, as strategic. So when zoning was suddenly dismissed, it raised concerns about internal coordination. Was this a personal opinion? Or was this the direction of the party? That uncertainty is what turned a single statement into a national discussion. By the time reactions began to settle, one thing was already clear. This issue would not fade quietly. Because zoning is not just about who runs. It is about who feels respected, who feels heard, and who feels secure within the system. That is why El-Rufai's words did more than spark debate. They exposed a fault line, one that ADC would have to address openly. And it was only a matter of time before key figures within the party responded. Rotimi Amaechi responded with clarity and firmness. There was no attempt to soften his position. There was no space left for doubt. He stated clearly that he would never support the idea of abandoning zoning in the ADC presidential primary. For Amaechi, zoning is not a suggestion. It is a stabilizing principle. It is a political tool that helps manage diversity and expectation in a complex country like Nigeria. Amaechi's argument was structured and deliberate. He pointed out that zoning has been adopted, formally or informally, by almost every major political party in Nigeria. Not because it is perfect, but because it works. According to him, it has helped reduce internal crises and prevented endless power struggles. He questioned why the African Democratic Congress should suddenly decide to operate differently. In his view, rejecting zoning at this stage would not make ADC progressive. It would make it careless. Amaechi emphasized that politics is not only about ideals. It is also about timing and coordination. A party preparing for a national election must move with a shared understanding, not individual ambition. He warned that removing zoning from the equation would open the door to confusion. Multiple heavy contenders would enter the race at the same time. Internal focus would shift from strategy to rivalry. Resources would be wasted on internal battles instead of national outreach. He then addressed the regional dimension directly. Amaechi argued that the North has had significant representation at the highest level in recent years. In contrast, the South is currently expected, by political convention, to complete its turn. He did not frame this as exclusion. He framed it as order. According to him, Northern aspirants should step aside for the 2027 election cycle. Not as a permanent decision, but as a temporary understanding that preserves balance. Amaechi was careful to add that this was not a call for withdrawal from the party. He encouraged Northern leaders to remain fully involved in building ADC. He stressed that their experience and influence were still needed. However, he insisted that ambition must wait its turn. For him, power rotation is a contract of trust. Breaking it damages credibility. Amaechi also raised concerns about election preparedness. He warned that ADC does not have the luxury of time. The next general election is approaching quickly. Any internal disagreement could weaken the party's ability to organize effectively. He argued that a divided party cannot challenge a sitting president. Unity, in his view, must be planned, not assumed. Amaechi then shifted focus to the political reality of 2027. President Bola Tinubu is from the south. Amaechi believes that the most effective challenge must come from the same region. His reasoning was tactical rather than emotional. He argued that a southern candidate would better neutralize regional arguments. It would remove distractions and force the campaign to focus on performance, policy, and leadership. Allowing multiple northern contenders at this stage, he warned, would weaken that strategy. It would split support. It would create unnecessary internal friction. Amaechi specifically mentioned prominent northern figures with presidential interest. He urged them to reconsider their timing. According to him, insisting on contesting in 2027 could harm both the party and the broader coalition effort. He made it clear that this position was not personal. It was strategic. Amaechi also expressed concern about perception. He warned that voters are watching closely. Any sign of internal disorder would reduce public confidence in ADC. In Nigerian politics, perception often matters as much as policy. A party seen as unstable struggles to gain trust. Amaechi concluded by stressing discipline and respect for internal agreements. he maintained that political coalitions survive on shared rules. Once those rules are ignored, unity becomes fragile. His response was not designed to provoke. It was designed to draw boundaries. In doing so, Amaechi positioned himself as a defender of structure and order. Whether that stance will shape ADC's final decision remains to be seen. Amaechi did not stop with zoning and regional balance. He moved quickly to the larger principle at stake: respect for agreements and coalition rules. In his view, political parties are only as strong as the principles they uphold. Once those principles are ignored, even the most promising coalition begins to crumble. He made it clear that his position aligns with Peter Obi, who he described as a leader committed to structure and fairness. According to Amaechi, Peter Obi's message has always been consistent: respect the coalition rules, respect zoning arrangements, and respect the agreements that allow parties to function effectively. Ignoring these principles, he warned, is a shortcut to internal conflict and electoral failure. Amaechi praised Peter Obi not just as a politician, but as a leader with character. He described Obi as someone who understands that politics is more than personal ambition. It is about building trust. It is about long-term strategy. It is about ensuring that every member of the coalition feels included and valued. He argued that a party without discipline is like a house without a foundation. No matter how strong the walls appear, the structure is fragile. Ignoring zoning now, he said, risks turning ADC into a party torn by internal battles before the real election even begins. This is a mistake that cannot be repaired easily. Amaechi emphasized that the coming 2027 election is not just about winning a presidency. It is about positioning the party for lasting relevance. A divided party, he said, will struggle not only in the election but also in future planning. Internal conflicts weaken campaigns, distract leaders, and confuse supporters. If ADC allows personal ambition to override agreed principles, it may lose more than just one election, it may lose credibility permanently. He also highlighted the strategic necessity of Southern unity in 2027. With President Tinubu already from the south, Amaechi explained, the Southern Bloc must present a unified front. This is not about exclusion, it is about ensuring the party's strongest chance of success. Any northern candidate entering the race now would fragment support, create unnecessary tension, and reduce ADC's ability to challenge the ruling party effectively. Amaechi's words were direct, calculated, and firm. He reminded political actors that timing matters as much as ambition. Northern leaders with presidential ambitions, he said, should respect the current agreement and wait for their turn in 2031. This is not a concession, it is strategy. It is about planning ahead rather than reacting impulsively. He warned that ignoring these arrangements would have consequences beyond ADC. Coalition partners, supporters, and even voters are watching closely. If they see disagreement at the top, they may question whether the party can govern responsibly. In politics, perception is power. A party that looks divided internally struggles to inspire confidence externally. Amaechi also reminded Nigerians that principle matters more than temporary advantage. Winning at the expense of agreements may seem attractive in the short term, but it erodes trust and damages reputation permanently. For him, ADC's credibility depends on respecting both the rules and the coalition partners. He concluded by framing his position as a protective measure. He is not trying to block anyone unfairly. He is trying to protect the party from chaos. He is trying to protect the coalition from mistakes that could cost the party the presidency in 2027. He is trying to protect the voters from confusion and disappointment. Amaechi also stressed that leadership is about responsibility. It is about taking hard decisions when necessary. It is about thinking beyond personal ambition and considering the bigger picture. In this case, the bigger picture is the success of ADC, the respect for coalition agreements, and the strategic positioning of the South for 2027. He urged every member of the party to reflect on these principles, to think carefully before making decisions, to respect both timing and strategy, and to remember that unity and discipline are far more valuable than individual ambition. Finally, Amaechi's message was a clear warning. ADC can either uphold its principles and move forward in an organized, strategic way, or it can ignore the rules and risk fragmentation, distraction, and failure. The choice, he said, is critical and immediate. The message was loud and unmistakable. ADC's future depends on principle, unity, and strategy. Breaking that trust now is a mistake the party may never recover from. Amaechi positioned himself not as a critic of the North, but as a guardian of order, a defender of principle, and a strategist thinking about the long-term success of the party and the country. This is more than politics. This is about leadership, foresight, and responsibility. How ADC responds now will define its path to 2027, and possibly beyond. Every member must choose carefully, because the next steps will determine whether the party is seen as disciplined and serious, or chaotic and unprepared. News. Amaechi's warning has already sent ripples across the political landscape. Party members and stakeholders are now forced to consider the consequences of ignoring established principles. The discussion is no longer theoretical, it is about strategy, timing, and the credibility of the ADC. Observers note that how northern leaders respond could either strengthen the party or deepen internal divisions. With 2027 approaching, every decision carries weight. Amaechi's stance signals a firm commitment to order and disciplined planning. The coming weeks will reveal whether ADC can maintain unity while respecting zoning agreements, or whether internal ambition will overshadow collective strategy and compromise the party's prospects at the national level.